What's up, everyone? It's DSP, and welcome to the first edition of the Hateful Truth in quite a long time. And as you can hear, it's going to be a noisy one. We got a lot of ground to cover, and for those of you who haven't seen a Hateful Truth before, basically what I'm about to do is just give a quick synopsis of each game that I've been playing, give a rating on a 1 to 10 scale. Now keep in mind, my ratings are true ratings because I don't work for any gaming media outlet, and I have no reason to inflate a score. So if I give a score of, say, assholes are mowing the lawn outside. If I give a score of, say, a 7, it doesn't actually mean the game is bad at all. It means the game's above average, but it's just not good enough to get, say, an 8 or a 9, which would be a great or outstanding rating. So keep in mind, my scores might seem a little bit on the low side, but that's because I'm honest and I don't inflate my scores because I work for a gaming magazine or anything like that. We're changing the format a little bit simply because this is the 4th quarter of 2010 and there's so many damn games coming out. I'm going to basically go turbo mode through this and basically just talk a little bit about each game and then give my rating for it and explain why. We have 8 games to cover today because I'm basically encompassing all the games that I played for the past month and a half that I didn't get a chance to talk about in any other video. So bear with me, we're going to be moving fairly quickly, but I think this is going to answer a lot of people's questions on what I thought overall about some of the games I've been playing. So, before we start, get a little sip. Alright, the first game on the docket here is Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, which I played last month. It's been 2 years since I played a Spider-Man game. Last one was Web of Shadows, and a lot of people were looking forward to this to see if they've improved the formula or not. It's a lot different than the previous Spider-Man games. It's not an open world. You're not going free-flowing through New York like you have been in previous games. This game is very chapter-based, and the story is that 4 Spider-Men from different dimensions are teaming up in order to defeat the Spider-Villains from different dimensions and then finally take on Mysterio in an epic boss battle at the end of the game. Some cool things about it: Stan Lee is the narrator, which is always cool to see him do some voice work. The gameplay is pretty much very similar to previous Spider-Man games. In fact, the different Spider-Men do have some variation in the way they work, but what I find is that it's very similar to Web of Shadows, the last Spider-Man game, where depending on if you chose the good path or the bad path, you got different abilities. Each Spider-Man kind of has his own unique abilities in that way. The one Spider-Man that really didn't seem to fit anywhere was Noir Spider-Man. He really plays extremely similarly to how Batman played in last year's release, Arkham Asylum, where he just sneaks around, tries to stay in the shadows, and does stealth takedowns. So really right there it looks like they were kind of biting off of Batman Arkham Asylum last year. But at the same time, one thing I really did like were the graphics of this game, the character design of this game, and also the boss battles. The boss battles were some of the best boss battles that I've seen in a long time, especially the different iterations of the classic Spider-Man villains in different universes and time periods. So overall, this game is not a bad game. It's a pretty good beat-em-up. Is there really a reason to buy the game? I mean, you could probably beat the game anywhere between 10 to 12 hours of gameplay. So the answer is really not really. There's really no reason to replay the game either besides just unlocking costumes. And that's, can really get boring after a while. So overall, this is a good weekend rental, I would say, and I gave the game a 7. So up next is a game a lot of people have been asking me about, Halo Reach. Because last year I tore apart Halo ODST, and people were saying, gee Phil, what did you think about Reach? Do you think it's another rip-off like last year's ODST, or do you think that it's a good game? Well, the bottom line is the campaign of Halo Reach is about 3 times as good as the campaign of Halo ODST. It's not boring or repetitive. You're not wandering around doing the same things. They really try to throw some variation in there with a helicopter stage. There's actually a couple gunner stages where you're on like a heavy gun shooting things on the ground. There's also a space stage, which is a new innovation for Halo. So the campaign is really solid. It kind of wraps up the prequel story of how it leads into the original Halo Combat Evolved and what happened with Spartan and all of that kind of stuff. The Spartan actually does make a cameo appearance in the game. Multiplayer of this game is really where it's at. The multiplayer has lots of different modes to play. They're constantly patching it. There's going to be DLC for multiplayer. You have to be a little bit careful though when you go to play this because a lot of people seem to like certain online modes which really don't lend themselves well to people who aren't used to the Halo universe. So for example, a lot of people like to play SWAT, which is a mode where you can easily get headshots, and headshots kill instantly, but the game also uses auto aim, so it's extremely easy for anyone to get headshots. I get the feeling the reason people play that game mode a lot is because they feel good because they can get headshots, even though it's really not a lot of skill to get them. But there are so many different game modes online, including Invasion. I mean, you have game modes where you can play as the aliens in the game. I mean, it's really fun, lots of weapons. They changed a couple things from Halo 3's multiplayer, but it's still a really solid experience. The ability to choose your loadouts, similar to like a Call of Duty game, is an excellent addition. So overall, the package is a good package. This is the kind of game you want to buy because you want to have that replayability of the multiplayer. I'm going to give that game a 7.5, simply because even though they did really well with what they did, being that this was supposed to be Bungie's last attempt at Halo, I really would have liked it if they added a lot more innovation to the game. But overall, what the game really ends up feeling like is a really good Halo 2. Like, they refined upon the formula of Halo 2, but they really didn't add anything new. So, for example, why didn't they add these space stages to multiplayer? That would have been amazing if you had people flying around like Star Fox shooting each other, but they fell short. They only have one level of it in the campaign. Multiplayer, they kind of played it safe. They did add a lot of game modes, but they stuck to what they knew how to do. So, if they had more innovation, I would have got a higher rating, but it gets a 7.5 from me. Up next, Dead Rising 2, a game that a lot of people basically said it looked like I had a love-hate relationship with, which is absolutely true. This game, if you don't understand what it is extremely frustrating. You need to understand that when you're playing Dead Rising 2, similar to Dead Rising 1, there is no way you're going to get everything done and all the side missions completed in one playthrough. You're going to have to play multiple times and keep leveling up. Once you beat the game, you keep your levels and all your abilities from your first playthrough, and it's a lot easier to just go right through the game and do everything. So, I didn't know that, and I was trying to kind of be Superman and do everything, and it was really frustrating for me. But then when John Rambo came over and we tried the co-op of this game is outstanding. It really makes the game a lot different. It's a lot less difficult, but it actually adds a lot more to the fun factor. You can actually spend some time running around, goofing around, because there's two of you, not one. It's a lot easier to beat the psychopaths in the game, which are kind of like the boss battles. One really neat thing about this game is that it has a secret ending. I'm not going to spoil it, but basically there's two endings to the game, which is cool. And also there's a online play, which is a neat addition. They didn't have to add online play as like it's not the game itself. It's a game show where basically you kill zombies. It's called Terror is Reality, and it's kind of one of the mini themes of the game itself. But it's really cool that they added that to the game. It's something they added that they didn't have to put in there. It is an added feature to the game. So overall, Dead Rising 2, to be completely honest, when I started it, I didn't like it because I didn't really get it. But once I started playing with John Rambo and I understood the game and we really started to have fun with it, I started to love it actually after a while. The boss battles are funny and difficult, but with a friend it's a little bit easier to tackle. I give Dead Rising 2 a 7.5. If it was a little bit on the easier side or a little bit more self-explanatory, I probably would have given it a higher rating. But being that there is a really big learning curve there for people who haven't played Dead Rising before, and the fact that it is very difficult to beat the game if you're playing by yourself and you haven't played Dead Rising 1, I'm going to have to give it that rating. Up next, really quick, this will be a quick one, NBA Jam on the Wii. This game was released and kind of surprised everyone because we thought there was going to be other versions of it available on Xbox 360 and PS3, but those were actually delayed. Now, the good thing about this game, it's a return to classic NBA Jam with a couple added things. The motion controls of the Wii actually work really, really well with this game. Where it's at, there's a lot of game modes, things that they added, new, 21, and shoot from certain places on the court and stuff like that. I mean, really, that stuff, and it's cool that they added those game modes, but it's really where it's at is the classic NBA Jam. There's a lot of unlocks in this game. You can unlock the mascots for every team. You can unlock the president. It's pretty cool. But the one downfall of this game, it's so much fun to play with your friends, is that there's no online play, which is insane in today's day and age. How can you have a sports game with no online play? It baffles my mind that there's so many games on the Wii with online play and they didn't give NBA Jam online play. It's like, delay the damn game 3 months then and give it online play. I don't understand. I had a ball here playing here with John Rambo when he was over to play with me, but I have not touched the game since then because I just don't want to play NBA Jam single player. It's not the kind of game that lends itself to a lot of single player play. So NBA Jam for the Wii, really fun, controls work well, If you have friends who can come over and play with you, it's a buy. But for anyone else, if you just don't, if you don't have people who can play with you locally, it's not worth it. Don't get the game. I give the game a 7, just because of that. If it had online play, this game would have been outstanding. It probably would have gotten an 8 or an 8.5, but they really fucked up. EA, I don't know what you were thinking. You got to give this game online play. It gets a 7. Up next is Enslaved, which is a single-player game, a third-person kind of adventure platformer with some combat and puzzle elements thrown in there. It's a game that's based off of the legend of the Monkey King, which is a Asian mythology, basically about a monkey-like guy who has a long tail. He has a stick that grows and he fights with it, and basically it's a pretty good post-apocalyptic adventure game. Basically it's set in the future, and it's trying to basically say that the world has ended, and why did it end, and there's robots that have taken over. And I'm not going to spoil the game for anyone. It's a pretty solid game. Check out my playthrough on DSP Gaming if you're on the fence about this one. I really like the graphics, the presentation. In fact, the motion capture of Monkey, who's the main character, is excellent. It looks very realistic. The voice work in this game is excellent, and the graphics are amazing. The lead role of the woman in the game, actually, she's beautiful. It's rare because these days, it's funny, you see all these games come out, and for some reason, the women end up looking deformed. I mean, I don't understand it. Go look at Fallout 3. There's not one pretty woman in that game. But in this game, beautiful. They really outdid themselves with the graphics engine. The one downfall of this game is that it's not very long. It's about 8 to 10 hours long. And I really enjoyed playing it while I was playing it, but being that it was so short, I really couldn't recommend to buy to anyone. I wish it were a longer game, or there was some replayability or a reason to play the game again, but there's really not. So unfortunately, after one playthrough, it's pretty much shelved. I give Enslaved a 6.5, just because of that fact. Okay, up next was Alan Wake's DLC, The Writer, which is the final DLC for the Alan Wake story. This DLC wrapped up the story of the Alan Wake game, and it did it in a pretty good way. It also left it open-ended. It wasn't a happy ending. It didn't solve everything, but it's pretty much the same gameplay from the last DLC, The Signal, where you kind of walk around with the flashlight. You're still fighting enemies, but also you're using it to solve puzzles by like shining on words and things like that, and making bridges or stairways or doors appear. Some pretty cool elements in this one, including houses that are rotating while you're inside them. So you're kind of like, you're getting flipped on your head and you got to figure out, gee, how do I get out of here? What's the proper door? That's a pretty cool addition. Overall, it's pretty much more of the same though. It's Alan Wake gameplay, which, as I said back in my Hateful Truth on Alan Wake earlier this year, can get repetitive and boring simply because it's the same thing. You shine a flashlight until the guy can be shot, you shoot the guy, you move on. There aren't really any complex puzzles or anything in this DLC. I think primarily they just wanted to wrap up the story in a way that satisfied everyone, which it does do, but at the same time, it's not anything to write home about. So I'm going to give it the same rating that I actually gave Alan Wake, a 7.5. Because it is what it is. It's just more Alan Wake. Now the next one I am torn on. It is the new Medal of Honor game. The reason I'm torn is because the campaign of this game was made by a company called Danger Close, and the online play, multiplayer, was made by DICE, who previously had made the online play for Battlefield Bad Company 2. The campaign of this game is great. I mean, it's on par with the epicness, the drama, the gameplay of Modern Warfare 1 and 2. It really is. The production value, the voice work, everything's done extremely well. Really what Danger Close wanted to do was give a tribute to the people who've been fighting over in Afghanistan for quite a long time. That is the plot line of the campaign. You're in Afghanistan playing as several different groups, including the Tier 1 operatives, the Rangers, the Wolf, I believe it's Wolf Operative or something like that. Forgive me because I don't remember officially what their name was, but very good. And the gunplay is great. A lot of variety of guns, a lot of variety of gameplay where you do some sniping, you do some gunnery, lots of stuff to jump into here. And I really enjoyed it. But the problem with this is the online play, because the online play is the reason that you're going to want to buy this game, and honestly, the online play, in my opinion, is not that good. The online play is very similar to Bad Company 2, but what they tried to do was basically put it on smaller maps so it would play more like Modern Warfare 2, and it really doesn't work. It just lends itself so much to camping, sniping. I mean, the first time I played it, I couldn't get more than 3 feet from my spawn point, and I was sniped. And the question is, how could they allow spawn camping so heavily in a game like this, where you're going to want to have to jump in and learn this gameplay, and they even have been touting it on TV as better than Modern Warfare 2. It's not. It's really not. It has a lot of problems with this spawn camping and other issues. So unfortunately, I really did not enjoy the online play. It really reminded me of Bad Company 2, but the difference is it's a smaller map. It's not as team-based as Bad Company 2, so it's really hard if you're behind to pull out of that gap that you have with the other team. So unfortunately, did not enjoy the online play. I think DICE really screwed the pooch here and dropped the ball and didn't do a good job. So the campaign of Medal of Honor, I actually give an 8. I think it's outstanding. The only problem with the campaign is it's short. It's just over, say, 4.5 hours long. So, which is on par with how long Modern Warfare 2's campaign was. So you can't really fault it there. But at the same time, that's the best part of the game. That would be the reason why I would want to keep playing this game or buy this game. The online play, I do not like at all. The online play, I give a 5. It's average. It's very average. Has a lot of problems that they need to fix if they expect this to beat Modern Warfare 2. So unfortunately, when you kind of average those out, it's really not that good. It ends up being like a 6.5. So unfortunately, Medal of Honor, you got screwed because DICE didn't do a good job on your online play. Sorry, just being honest. The next game is a game that I played on Xbox Live Arcade called Comic Jumper. Didn't expect to play it, but a fan actually donated some points. He wanted me to try it out. This game is a platformer shooter similar to like Earthworm Jim. It kind of has that comedy aspect to it. Lots of witty dialogue, really cool characters. Everything looks like a different comic book. Like there's a forgive me, a Conan style comic book, a manga style comic book setting, and a Silver Age style setting, plus a present day setting. Pretty cool, the variety of gameplay. My problem with this game, a lot of the deaths are really cheap. Some parts they just throw so much shit at you, there's no way you're going to survive without dying and having to start over from checkpoint with full health. The good thing about that is there's no lives, meaning there's unlimited lives. You can never lose the game. And that kind of does take away a little bit of the challenge of the game, but the game is pretty damn hard too. A lot of the stuff is hard to figure out how to kill on the first try. But I did enjoy it overall. I thought it was a different take on this kind of a platformer action shooter game. The only other gripe that I have is it is kind of short. It is 8 to 10 hours long. Actually, it's a little bit on the shorter than that. It's probably around 8 hours, I would say. And I kind of wanted more. I wanted more of the modern day style comic book, which really you only get to play in one issue. So I do have issue with that. But overall, solid. A good first try for Twisted Pixel, who was the studio who made this game. Really funny. If you want a couple laughs, it's definitely worth a purchase, so I give that game a 7.5 as well. The last game on the docket today is Kirby's Epic Yarn. I'll be honest with everyone, I haven't beaten it yet. I'm on the next to last level, so I'm pretty damn close. And this game is way different than the other games I play because it really is almost a kid-oriented game. You can't really die in the game, you can only lose your power-ups, and therefore you get less points when you beat the level, but you still beat the level and progress. I have to say the game is super cute, but it's funny and just really, it makes you calm when you play this game. It makes you happy when you play this game. And you know what? That's the kind of game that every once in a while people want to play because you need to kind of relax the nerves and just kind of chill out and veg out and play a fun game. Now the challenge level, to be honest, is not very high. Like I said, you can't die. You're going to end up beating the stages more often than not. And the only real challenge in this game is finding all the secret items and doing all the optional missions. If you actually want to do all that optional stuff, this game has a massive replayability. You can go back and replay every stage with an optional mission. You can unlock new characters as your neighbors who will give you some optional gameplay types and things like that. And it really comes to be a pretty good complete package. For what it is, a kiddie game, it's really fucking fun. And I really enjoyed it. So overall, this game is a game that I would buy for my kids. You know, I don't have kids, but if I had them, I would buy it for them for Christmas. I think they would love it. I think this is going to be the go-to game for younger kids this holiday season. A really solid platformer. I love playing good platformers that don't try to oversell themselves. Kirby knows what it is. It is a kiddie-style fun game that's a little bit on the easy side, but it's relaxing at the same time. I actually give Kirby an 8. So Kirby's Epic Yarn, out of today's Hateful Truth, gets the absolute highest rating for knowing what it is, doing it well, and being a very enjoyable game. That was a lot of shit to talk about in a short period of time. So I hope this has answered a lot of people's questions. I hope this gives you an idea of what I thought about all the games that I've been playing. the future Hateful Truths that I'll be trying to do once a week will be better than this one, I assure you, because I won't be doing this many games at once. Once it's only 2 to 3 games a week, I'll have a lot more time to talk about the things I like and dislike about the games, and we'll get a lot more out of it. But for this week, I just had to push through it, get it done. Next week will be better. So anyway, thanks a lot, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Hateful Truth. I'll see you next week for Fallout 3, or Fallout. I keep saying Fallout 3 because it's very similar to Fallout 3, but for Fallout New Vegas, Vanquish, and anything else that comes out during that time period. See you later.